the space to truly shine if you have to hide the parts that make you different? What if the biggest barrier to power for women isn't a lack of skill or confidence, but the hidden energy tax we pay every time we edit ourselves to fit in? I'm a 70s child, and it was an unusual time, an odd time. My family, odder. And growing up, I quickly learned that if you want to belong, you have to blend in. So I unconsciously edited out those differences, not realizing that every time I edited myself, I was paying a hidden price. The 70s were a time to be bold, but most people were bold in a certain way. They looked a certain way, they sounded a certain way, and they walked a certain way. It was a conformative rebellion. My all-American family lived on a commune, had 2 kids swinging in a papoose from a tree, wore handmade skirts, and had a goat, whose milk was my breakfast. While other kids were outside biking or playing tag, or inside watching Sesame Street or the Brady Bunch, I, on a Saturday morning, was doing Tai Chi in the park in Chinatown with my dad and my sisters and a group of Chinese elders. After growing up feeling so different, all I wanted to do was fit in, to be as similar as possible to everyone else. You see, I'd learned the unspoken rule: if you want to belong, blend in. So I became the corporate chameleon, the award-winning technology salesperson in a sea of men. I wore dark suits, like them. He wears light tops, I wear light tops. He wears dress shoes, I wear little size 7 Oxfords. Those Oxfords lasted a week. They were fugly. That was too far, and my conformity had hit a wall. My conformity translated to productive energy lost. I muted what made me different, not realizing I was paying the price with my vital energy. A Deloitte study found that over 60% of employees cover parts of their identity at work, hiding age, disability, religion, and even personality. Neuroscience tells us that when you suppress parts of yourself, your brain triggers a stress response. Turns out our brains aren't wired to lie to ourselves day in and day out. Neuroscience shows us that when we chronically suppress our emotions or aspects of our identity to fit in, we activate the brain's stress response system. Fight, freeze, or flight. This triggers a cascade of hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, meant for short bursts of survival, but not daily life. Over time, this leads to fatigue, burnout, anxiety, memory loss, and chronic illness. Turns out the data and the science are telling us that real power is leading from what makes you different, not hiding it. The new paradigm for today says, align and thrive. It's about aligning the inner and outer you to thrive through aligned emotions, also known as emotional intelligence. You don't have to overshare or be a rebel. You just have to stop hiding the parts of yourself that contain your unique viewpoint. Technology can mimic your outputs, but it can't lead from your lived experience. It doesn't know what it was like to do Tai Chi in the park at 5. Throughout history, from Rosa Parks of the Civil Rights Movement, to Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, NASA mathematicians, celebrated in the movie Hidden Figures, these are bold, powerful women who insisted on showing up and owning, not suppressing their unique identities, even though they were excluded from opportunities. They quietly, but boldly, insisted on showing up and recalculated the course of history. I asked myself, what parts of me had I hidden? And what would it take to bring them back to life? I embarked on a journey to reclaim the parts of my identity I thought I needed to bury. I discovered 2 deceptively simple questions unlock a powerful process. Question 1. Where am I shrinking? Shrinking isn't always obvious, especially after years of being buried. To identify where you're shrinking, dive deeper by making a list. Make a list of what made you different as a kid, even now as an adult. And then review the list. Review the list and ask yourself, what parts do I shrink or hide to fit in? These parts often contain your greatest genius. I was hiding the papoose and goat's milk breakfast stories of my life, not realizing they were the coolest parts of my childhood. Question 2. How can I show up fully right now? Not when it's safe. Not when it's easy. But right now, even 1% more fully. Maybe it's sharing a bold idea or offering a story no one else dares tell. Maybe it's letting your voice rise instead of trailing off, shrinking when you speak. Maybe it's expanding your legs, taking up room, instead of crossing your legs because it feels more comfortable. Once I was present to the buried aspects of my identity, I was in a position to integrate them into my life and work. I reclaimed that Tai Chi from childhood, and I took the intentional breathing and began taking one full breath before taking an action. It was a subtle 1% improvement, and it was transformational. In that moment, I created the space to check in on my stress response. And then I could choose to show up more fully. I started sharing my stories, like the commune stories, and that's what brought me here today to this stage. What seemed like an odd Saturday morning ritual became the foundation of my work. Teaching leaders the power of intentional breathing to transform stress and even burnout into presence, and presence into a new kind of power. Try it with me. Take a breath in and out. While watching the Brady Bunch, could have prepared me for Zoom meetings today. That digital detox called my childhood, where I read thousands of books, those moments prepared me to be a storyteller and corporate coach today. Own who you are. Embrace your whole self. You are all perfect. Let me ask you a question. How much energy tax are you paying from not showing up fully? You can ask these two questions too. These two questions are the secret source of your untapped power. Reclaim your hidden energy and transform it. Transform fatigue into flow, conformity into creativity, and silence into influence. When you reclaim that power as women, you give the person to the right of you, and the person to the left of you, and the person online seeing you from halfway across the world permission to do the same. That one choice could change the course of so many people's lives. And if enough of us own our oddities, we won't just change the room we're in. We'll change the world we live in. That's how history's made. One voice, one choice, one small act of courage at a time. Stop shrinking. Start showing up and share this message. Thank you.